What's up, everyone? This is your host, Ben Askren, and this is a brand new show brought to you by the RUDIS Wrestling Network. We are debuting this show. We're calling it On Deck. It's a show where I'm going to sit down every Monday with, 2, 3, 4, we'll see how it turns out, wrestling guests from hopefully what happened recently in the wrestling world, whether it's high school level, college level, international level. Obviously, we know you guys are all interested the most in the college level, so it'll probably be a high level of that. And I'm going to sit down and talk with them. We're going to get their take on stuff, how things went, and then we're going to move on from there. Today, I have my very first show ever. So what I decided to do for my first show, I decided to pick 3 guys I get along with really, really, really well. And those 3 guys are Nebraska head assistant coach Bryan Snyder, University of Wisconsin head coach Chris Bono, and Missouri head coach Brian Smith. So we are going to have those 3 guys on here this weekend. Obviously, you guys can also catch me on FRL Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. We'll talk about all the recent wrestling events. And then obviously Matt is going to have a new co-host too, which this week I believe is none other than my brother, Max Askren. And he will be talking about all the current wrestling events with Max. So obviously last weekend we had a huge weekend of wrestling. Iowa did some really good things. Wisconsin had 2 dual meets, which we talked to Chris Bono about. They had Minnesota and Nebraska. Missouri had 2 dual meets. They wrestled UNI and Ohio. Nebraska, obviously, as we mentioned, they wrestled Wisconsin on Sunday, which, I'm not going to bring that up with Coach Snyder because obviously I know that wasn't Nebraska's best performance year, and they are having a very good year. And so for me, the story of the weekend is definitely Iowa. It's Iowa, and all Iowa. They looked fantastic, totally fantastic against Purdue. We are only 3 weeks from their showdown against Penn State. And so our first guest right now is Coach Chris Bono. I will bring him onto the show, and we'll go from there. All right, what's up, Coach Bono? You guys are coming off a big Sunday win. How's it feel Monday in the office?
It's good. Tired. If you could believe that.
Well, you guys had some crazy snow or ice maybe on the way home from Minnesota?
Well, we didn't come home. We stayed up there Friday night. It was a good decision. We stayed up there. We didn't get back to the hotel until 11:30 that night, so we stayed up there and didn't leave till 8 in the morning. So we made the right choice. We beat the snow, got home on time on Saturday. Good little workout Saturday night, and then we got ready Sunday. So it was a good trip.
Perfect. Okay, so we're just really going to focus on these last 2 matches for you guys. I guess Friday night, kind of, I would say disappointing result. I know how you think. But really, from a fan's perspective, couple overtime matches away, getting a win, obviously. Some really other tough matches. And I think the big one would be Moran over McKee. What are you guys' takeaways from Friday night?
It was very disappointing, to be honest with you. Very, very disappointing. But like I told the guys, I don't think we win on Sunday if we didn't lose on Friday night.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We kind of been plodding through and just barely doing this and doing that. So that loss really opened their eyes a little bit because they didn't wrestle up to their potential as a team.
Yeah.
Some of them did, some of them didn't. I think what you saw Sunday in Eric Barnett is what you will see 99% of the time. Friday night he got caught in the headlights a little bit. Big Ten match, great atmosphere, didn't have a great weight cut, was a little scared, whatever it was. He's over that now. So I think if we wrestle that match again, there'd be a different outcome.
Yeah, again, Eric Barnett Friday night and Eric Barnett Sunday those were different people.
Different people, and that's that's welcome to being a true freshman.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Okay, let's talk about my man Tristan Moran. He had a huge weekend. I guess you'd say, he didn't have a bad year. He lost 1 match at Midlands, but he has a win over number 2 and number 5, I believe, Chad Red, Mitch McKee. Both really exciting, high-energy matches. I think he got cradles in both matches. Or no, not in the McKee match. He got a step over, right? Or did he get a cradle?
I don't even remember. But that sounds bad, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of matches. He got 2 cradles against Chad Red. Where do you think this bumps him up in the rankings? What does this look like moving forward? And then, when you look at the rankings, the Big Ten is at 141 is absurd.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the rankings with Tristan. I think everybody else should be concerned with the rankings. Tristan's dangerous. Nobody is going to want to wrestle Tristan. He can beat anybody in the weight class. So wherever they put him is good for us. But the loss to the Campbell kid is bad, and I think the loss to Murin was bad. I think Tristan is right up there with the top 2 or 3 guys in the country. And I think he's proven that right now. And however they put him, they put him. I think everybody else is hoping that come national tournament time that they're not on the same side as him.
Yeah, that's true. He's very, very dynamic, sneaky, can score a whole lot of points really fast. Another guy that had a great Sunday, and this kind of almost your whole team on Sunday. It was a pretty fantastic match. Evan Wick, who's had ups and downs, right? He had the really great performance at the U.S. Open in December, but then he had a loss that you would have liked him not to have at Midlands. And he looks just fantastic, I think, in all positions against Isaiah White, who won the CKLV and has had a really good year so far.
Evan looked great Sunday. Evan looked great Friday night, too. And the thing about Evan, he came off the mat Friday night. I think the kid had a nosebleed or something, and we're winning 6-1. And he looked at me, and there was like 40 seconds left, and he's like, I'm going to let him up. I'm going to let him up. I'm going to take him down. And it was like, Evan, listen, if you win by a major tech or pin, it doesn't help the team any bit. We're going to lose the duel. He was the last match. Yeah. But his mindset now has changed to he's looking to kill people. Yeah. And that was very encouraging. And then it happened again Sunday. We're up by 7. We let him go up by 6. He takes him down when has the major, and his mindset kicked in. He tried to kill him. He let him go, took a bad shot, and the kid ran around us or whatever. We win by 4 or 5. Where he could have ridden him out and majored him. So his mindset is now clicking to where I'm going out. I'm just going to try to score a bunch of points and beat people as bad as I can. And when he does that, he's dangerous. He's very, very dangerous. So he's on track again. Nobody wants Evan Wick on their side of the bracket, so that's what we're excited about. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Last guy I'm going to ask you about, Trent Hilger had a tough one. I mean, obviously it's Gable. Gable's as good as it gets as heavyweight. But Trent's had a pretty good year. He's dropped a few matches. I think, right, I'm around your program. I feel like he's matured a lot into his sophomore year. I feel like he's really becoming a leader for you guys. The loss is hard on Friday night, but what do you make about him moving forward?
Well, I think what our goal right now with Gable is to close the gap.
Yeah.
Right. And I told Trent this was when I wrestled McElravy. I had a plan my senior year. I'd never beaten him, but we mapped out a plan. We're going to wrestle him 5 times.
In 1 year? You wrestled him 5 in 1 year?
We wrestled. Our plan was to wrestle. I believe it was 2 dual meets because we were head to head. All-star meet, Midlands, and Nationals.
Wait. Did Iowa and Iowa State wrestle 2 dual meets in a year?
Yes.
Was that regular?
No, but we went home and home for a couple of years.
Oh, really? Wow.
So that was the plan, right? That was the plan.
Yeah.
And each time we were trying to get closer and figure things out. And it was working, right? The dual meet was, I don't remember, 5-2. This match was 5-3. He didn't wrestle in the Midlands, and he didn't wrestle at he got hurt at Midlands, so I only got 4 cracks at him. And then we wound up winning. He beat me in overtime, the closest it ever was. In the national finals, and it was like I said, Trent, listen, we might not beat him now, we might not beat him in the Big Ten, but we need to close it. We need to find a way to close the gap, and he did that. He did a great job. He found some things that we watched on film where whenever his hands are comfortable, he's always attacking. He likes to be outside with one wrist on the other. That's when all his attacks are coming. You know, and then we made a couple of bad decisions about taking a shot, and he reshot us a bunch too.
Yeah, because Gable's reshots and reattacks as a heavyweight. They're about the best I've ever seen heavyweight.
But it was everything we saw on film. Now we've got to translate that into how do we stop those reshots? When's the right time to take them? Make sure we're recovering. And so I think you're going to see him get closer and closer. Remember, they're both sophomores.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of matches. You know what I mean? And we've got to figure out how to beat them when it really counts.
Yeah, that sophomore freshman, this class of heavyweights, and you've been around the sport longer than I have. I've been following high level wrestling, I don't know, 20-ish years now. It is about as good of a class of heavyweights as we've seen. With Mason, Paris, Cassiope, Hilger, Stevenson, Kirklevet. I mean, there's just all these freshmen that are really young. Heavyweights who are really young, who are coming up. It's going to be fascinating to see who comes to the top of the heap within, who knows, it could be 2 more Olympic cycles that these guys stick around.
That's right. It's going to be good. America is good with for the next couple of cycles with heavyweights for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look forward to the rest of the month. You guys obviously got Ohio State this coming week. Penn State, I believe, is being next month. What else are you guys looking forward to this month?
We gotta get ready for Indiana and Purdue too. Okay. We've got Ohio State Friday. That's going to be a big one. It's going to be a great meet where a crowd will show up, and then we got a week off, which is nice. And that was because we wrestled Iowa in the first semester.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a week off, which is awesome because our guys can recover. We can train hard. We can, give them some time off and do some good things. And then we go to Indiana and Purdue, and, both of those teams are looking like they're improving a ton. They've got some great guys, and we're going to be on the road. So our last road trip before we head to the Big Tens and Nationals, everything else will be at home. Penn State, Friday night, we're on Bobby Douglas, February 7th. That's going to be a big deal. We've got a bunch of people coming back for it. And then we have that Sunday, I believe, we have Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
The next week, Michigan at home, and then Northern Iowa on a Thursday night to close out our season.
All right, you brought him up. Let's go. Favorite Bobby Douglas story. You guys are honoring him on the February 7th duel, which obviously for the people who don't, they don't know history as well as you and I do. You were coached by Bobby Douglas. Cale was coached by Bobby Douglas. Cody Sanderson. Was John Reeder coached by Bobby Douglas at all?
John Reeder was around. Bobby was around with John Reeder and Varner and all the Penn State crew. So it's going to be a great night. Bobby is awesome, and you have to be around Bobby to understand. But one, I've got some stories. Bobby always struggled with names. This is a good one. We had 3 guys on the team at one time where we had an assistant coach named Adam Darengowski. Okay,
hell of a name.
We had he wrestled at Ryder, I believe. Adam, I don't know. He was great. We had an assistant coach who was training for the Olympics. Then we had a guy on the team named Mike Dombrowski. then we had a guy on the team named Matt Goncharowski.
Oh God!
And I swear to you, for 4 years, he would yell like, "Damn it, Goncharowski! Get your head off the mat." And he was talking to Darengowski. and then he would yell at Dombrowski, and he meant to yell at Goncharowski. For 4 years, I don't think he got one of those guys named right when he was yelling in the wrestling room. And it became a real big thing. But those guys hear that. Everybody in there will love that story because it was one of those things we used to tease them about all the time.
Oh yeah, because I had Coach Horton, who's an Iowa State guy, roughly your era, and Horton always said that he messed up his name too. And Bart was an All-American 5-year wrestler.
Dude, he called me Bomo my whole career. Bomo. And then, hey, this is great. When I got married. He came to the wedding.
Okay.
He came to the reception. He said, "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Chris and Nikki," because he was about to call us Bomo.
Oh my goodness!
So he knew what he was saying. It just came out the wrong way. But he's unbelievable. I can't wait to get him here. I can't wait to get him. There's a ton of people coming back. I got to get on Horton to come back.
Yes, that would be so awesome.
For sure.
I'll house him. I'll volunteer to house him. Okay,
right.
Last thing I want to mention, and I'll let you go. You brought this up a few minutes ago. I did not make it yesterday. I'm busy on Sundays working, but the crowd looked fantastic. They looked loud. They looked into the match. And that's something I feel like, you're only in your second year at Wisconsin, but it's kind of already, a hallmark, a staple of the program. Man, how did that feel for that crowd to be rocking on Sunday?
It was great. You know what? They're very knowledgeable, too. When we have a guy we're about to turn a guy, they're going crazy, and then, heavens forbid you take one step back on that wrestling mat. That poor referee's getting bombarded with phone calls, and it's great. It was night and day wrestling, at Minnesota in front of 4,000 people. They were doing the same thing, and now we get in front of our home crowd, and it is definitely a big time advantage for our fans to show up. We need to get them there all the time. We've got to figure out. I work on the schedule daily. This year I avoided the opening of hunting season. Right? I'm trying to get as many high school kids there, but we're mandated Fridays, Sundays. So I'm working. I want the crowd there. I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Ton of youth showed up yesterday. Ton of high school kids showed up. I think it's going to be like that for Ohio State. I haven't looked at the ticket stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm fired up. Our crowd is into it. And again, I don't want the crowd to be there unless we have a product, to give them. So we're working every day to get better. Working on, things to do for the kids in the stands. Then, and making it an entertaining, 2 hours.
Absolutely. Okay, that was fun. You were the first guest ever on this. We're calling it On Deck. On
Deck.
On Deck. Yes, you're the first ever guest. You got any closing words for us?
No, man. I appreciate all you do, Ben, as you know. And we'll get fired up. When's this going to be out?
Hopefully. Today? I can't promise. It should be tonight. Yes.
All right. Well, it's coming out this week, so let's get there. This Ohio State duel. There's going to be
a big one.
30% of the number one ranked wrestlers in the country are going to be in our arena.
Yeah.
Colin Moore, Luke Pletcher, Seth Gross. Right? I don't know how many matches you're going to see that, so for our fans that want to see high-level wrestling, and then you throw in all these ranked wrestlers, right? They got a guy named Sammy Sasso.
He's good.
They got a guy named Ethan Romero. They got a guy, up and down the lineup that they've got ranked guys that are good, right?
Well, you know who's getting popular? Gas Tank Gary.
Oh yeah, that's going to be good. Gas Tank Gary.
That's gonna be a fun match.
We've been following them. Gas Tank Gary versus Thor. We could have a little comic strip match or something. but what I'm getting at is between Moran and Wick and Hilger and Gross and all these ranked wrestlers, this is a high level match with a lot of ranked wrestlers that right here in people's backyards in Wisconsin you can turn out and see. So it's going to be a great match. Shoot, cancel your high school match scheduled for Saturday morning and let's get the fans down here.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Coach Bono. Love it.
All right.
See ya. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Coach Bono. We heard some really good things from him. Obviously, they had an outstanding match yesterday against the University of Nebraska. Huge crowd at University of Wisconsin. I know with the previous administration, that was one of my biggest issues is they never had any energy. The crowd was always really small, and we're seeing that just in 2 years turn around with Chris Bono. They have a huge match this Friday night against Ohio State. Obviously some really tough matchups for the Badgers in that one. And he brought up that there's 3 number ones. There's Seth Gross, there's Luke Pletcher, who's looked just totally outstanding this year, and Colin Moore. But they don't have any huge matchups like we saw obviously against Nebraska. It was Tristan Moran, Chad. Oh, actually, I lied. Luke Pletcher, number 1. Tristan Moran's probably gonna be number 3 or number 4. And then that'll probably be the biggest match. That'll be the marquee match of the duel. So I think it's a good one. Okay, without further ado, we are going to bring on Coach Bryan Snyder, who's from the University of Nebraska. We'll bring him on the line. We'll chat with him. We'll hang up with him, and then we'll get on with Coach Bryan Smith. What's up, Coach Snyder, my man?
What's up, Benny? How are you? Can you hear me?
I'm great. Were you taking a nap in there? It's kind of dark.
Just the spotlight where I need it, right here.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's get this chat started. I know I was texting with you a little bit, and we said we were going to start on a topic that I think is it's very interesting to both of us. So obviously, I've coached wrestling at the highest levels. Well, I've never coached world champion, so I can't say the highest levels like you can. You can actually say that. I can say very, very close, but not quite. And then obviously all the way down to beginner wrestling, and that was what your dissertation was on for your PhD. So let's discuss that topic and your dissertation, because I think it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah. So when I left the sport for a couple of years and went off to be an academic, I left wrestling for 2 years completely. And my entry back into wrestling was my dissertation research. So I was with an inner city high school wrestling team, and really coming back to wrestling in that environment gave me such a different experience of the sport that I'd never seen before. Right.
Yeah,
and so,
absolutely.
And you do something your whole life, it's just natural that you come to take it for granted, right?
Yep.
So for me, what I really started to think on was wrestling absolutely can change somebody's life.
Absolutely.
Right? And so,
yeah.
Absolutely. And you get caught up, like I said, you get caught up and you do things for your whole life, you take them for granted, and you forget the reasons why people wrestle, and you forget the reasons why wrestling is amazing. So for me, it was really refreshing to see on the ground, kids coming to the room, no wrestling shoes, terrible family lives. And I saw wrestling change several people's lives, absolutely on the ground. And it was awesome. And all the things that you hear, the discipline and teaching yourself to overcome certain obstacles, they're cliches for a reason, right? Because they're true.
Yep.
They're true. And, the other thing that's really important is you can't, wrestling doesn't change your life unless you have somebody special in terms of a mentor or coach there to help you change it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's one of the main things. When people say, how big are you going to grow AWA? One of the things I always come back with is the difference of a great coach in someone's life and a terrible coach in someone's life. That's everything. A great coach can change their life. A terrible coach can continue to make their life I don't want to say worse, but not great. And
Yeah.
there's so many kids. The biggest thing I see, there's so many kids in their life that haven't had an adult, an authority figure saying, "You can do this. You're capable. Go achieve it." And
Right.
for someone to be able to do that to people, it is life altering. You're totally right.
Yeah, and the head coach there at the time was he hit the narrative home almost daily that, listen, life is tough, especially for a lot of you kids. Life is tough, and wrestling's tough. Like, this is a great avenue for you to understand what life is going to be about, because you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to learn how to pick yourself back up. But obviously, he was there. He was a super, super awesome mentor and role model for the guys, in that he was there for them and picked them back up and helped them through a lot of situations that weren't related to the sport directly. Yeah, it was cool to see that. So it was cool to enter back into the sport. It gave me a tremendous perspective on it. And, it really, I say this a lot, and wrestling really it lays bare what it means to be human. Like, you invest in something, you lay it on the line, and there's a lot of joy and pain that comes along with those successes and failures, right?
Absolutely.
But the opposite is to not invest in anything, and then you go through life like this, right? And so I think that that's also one of the things that I've wrestled and thought about that a lot in the last 5 or 10 years. But it's absolutely true. And so it helps you keep perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go on that. I'm going to talk about both of our failures, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so obviously my failures have been very public in the last year, and it came at the tail end of my career, and it was when I was trying to achieve the most. And then, a lot of people regard you, our younger crowd won't know this, but as one of the best guys to never win an NCAA title, as you came so close twice. You talk about the highs and the lows, and one thing that I've been thinking about a lot since obviously I announced my kind of official retirement and, ended with a few really, really disappointing results this year is that I wouldn't do it any other way, right? That's what I came for. I knew that when I entered the competition that there was a chance of success or a chance of failure, and that's fine. And obviously I failed and I didn't love it, and I would have probably rather had it the other way. But I don't think there's anything about that experience that I would change, and I think I can use that to move forward and grow into who I am. And obviously now, one of the things I heard from my kids, and hey, I took an ass whooping from Jordan, your guy Jordan Bros this year too. But one of the things I heard from my kids over the past how many years is, well, you can't relate to me, but you've been doing too much winning, and now I've lost on the biggest scale, and so now I feel like it's almost easier for me to relate back to the kids that I'm coaching. Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, for me, I'm like you. I've tried to really make those losses, which were, they were heart-wrenching at the time, right?
Yeah.
I try to have them make me a better coach and to, provide perspective to the guys that I'm coaching, right? So they don't make the same mistakes, both from an emotional standpoint, having them understand difficult losses in their life, but also from a technical standpoint. Like, I overemphasize the top position with my guys because I wasn't prepared in that area. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I was not prepared to win a 30-second ride out.
Yeah.
And part of it was because I was hard-headed. That I could beat everyone. I thought I could beat anyone on my feet, and that was going to be the determining factor whether or not I was a national champ. And I almost did it, right?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have hurt me. It wouldn't have taken away from my neutral wrestling if I was also good on top, right? It's not a zero-sum game, right? You can get better at both.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's talk a little more about current events. So, actually, you're going through the highs and lows this season. You guys looked absolutely outstanding at CKLV. You won it by a wide margin, I believe. You guys just took a loss to Wisconsin. That was actually yesterday. And now, obviously, you guys got to pick yourself back up because you guys have a heck of a stretch. You wrestle both the number 1 and 2 teams over the next 2 weeks. You wrestle Iowa this weekend, and then you wrestle Penn State the following weekend. So back-to-back 1 and 2. How are you going to get your young guys back up and back ready to rumble?
So you just got to get them focused on the task at hand, right? So we have an awesome opportunity to go into Carver Hawkeye this weekend, wrestle the number 1 team in the country, and do something that we haven't done since I've been at Nebraska. And Manning's message the last few weeks has been, hey, 1 week at a time, right? Everybody knows we got a big scale. We got a big month ahead of us, right? Because if you look past Penn State, we also have Ohio State, the next weekend. Just trying to frame this as an awesome opportunity and be grateful for the experience. You can go out there and compete fearlessly and, let the points fall, and we'll see what happens when the whistle blows. But, get guys to wrestle through positions, come out, set the tone, and compete really hard, man. Find some courage and go out there and lay it on the line is really the message all week.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I look at your guys' lineup, you guys have only one or two seniors in the lineup, correct?
We have one senior in the lineup.
One senior in the lineup. So this team, which is
two seniors. Sorry, two seniors. Okay. You're right.
Two seniors. So it's really good, and then I feel like you guys can fill in those spots pretty well. So do you guys view this as kind of a 2-year project, or is it get on the stage this year?
I think we feel like this is one of the more special teams that ever been at Nebraska. And obviously, there's been some ups and downs. And I think even when people were praising us for our performance in Vegas,
it was good.
It was good, but to us, we're thinking, man, me and Manny talked about it. There's probably only one or two guys that were probably satisfied with the way they competed, right? And so I think the sky's really the limit. I mean, this year we feel like we have a special team, and we feel like we can do really well come March, absolutely. Yeah. But we also know that we're not losing much, and the guys that we have going to come in at 49 and 65, we feel really good about.
Got it. Okay, so you and I had a conversation we were at Dallas. We were in Dallas.
Yeah.
Open. And we talked about, I brought the fact that I'm an outsider of your team, right? I'm not in Nebraska at all. But it appeared to me that you guys have had like a year of maturity, and your team, we hit back to last year. One of the things was some of your guys came in and had really, really poor Novembers and Decembers, Chad Red being one of them. Yep. And then, he turns around this year, and obviously he had the loss yesterday, but prior to that, man, he had a really, really good start to his year. So what's it been like watching these guys mature, grow up? And that's kind of, what we were talking about earlier with not only helping them develop technical aspects of wrestling, but helping them develop in life.
It's great. It's one of the more, it's one of the more, encouraging things to see as a coach. And one of the more rewarding things to see as a coach is when somebody figures out the maturity piece, right? Because it doesn't come easy, easy are the guys that come in well-disciplined, know how to cut their weight, know how to study. Like,
who's the number one guy that came in like that?
Just in terms of their diet and their school?
Just as mature. They did everything right.
Jordan Shear from North Dakota. His nickname is Mr. Automatic. Eric Schultz isn't too far behind him.
Okay.
So it's awesome to see him mature. And I think, CJ is always going to be a guy that turns up when it comes March because that's just who he is. But where he's at now compared to last year at this time is due in part to his maturity, with his commitment to his what he's put in his body, his diet. We all know that last year he wasn't great on 1 hour weigh-ins, and but he's better. He's way better this year than he was last year, and so I just see more and more growth. And more maturity. But as a coach, it's really rewarding to see that, because that's really what you strive for. Because you obviously the results are going to come and go, but to see someone make a step in their maturity is something that they're going to take with them when they leave this program, and something that we emphasize as coaches. So it's good.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to spit something at you right here, because I had a meeting this morning. I want to write a book. I've told you that probably before. So I determined a new title. I want to call it the psychology of being successful. What do you think about that?
The psychology of being successful.
Yeah. Okay. And so one of the things I posed today, I was talking to someone about it. One of the things I posed was that, so I'm going to pitch this to you as an athlete. Bryan Snyder is an athlete. Bryan Snyder is a coach. And I was talking about being a husband, being a father, right? There's a whole bunch of things you can do in life. Right. And you have to do a lot of them. But there's a bunch of characteristics that make you good at being an athlete. There's some of them that cross over, right? Hard work, discipline, etc. Those will be across the board. But then I feel like there's a lot of characteristics which maybe they plug into certain things but don't plug into others. So I was saying, like, as a father and a husband, but empathy is something that's gigantic, I think. But as an athlete, it's like, well, I don't really think you need that one. It's kind of a throwaway one, right? What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, as a partner in a relationship or as a coach, empathy is huge. As a competitor, I think I'm with you. I think you throw it away.
Yeah. So then I was going through my book, right? And I don't know if I've ever went in depth with you, but it's how characteristics balance each other. I don't really think there's any sports psychology books that talk about it, but there's all these things that balance. Like you can have too much of this and not enough of this, or too much of this, not enough of this. How do you make them work together in the right circumstances? Yeah, but so then I was thinking, obviously I came from wrestling, so the initial book idea was about wrestling, and now as I try to do more and more things, it's like, okay, well, what other characteristics do you need when you go into business or when you go into being a husband or when you be a father? Because they all do. If you're a really terrible husband or a terrible father, like that's going to affect your ability to be a coach, right? Because your life is going to be miserable. Everything's going to tie together eventually.
Well, send me a copy. I'll read it.
Well, I might need you as a co-author. I mean, you do have
let's do it.
Well, your PhD is in sociology, not psychology, correct?
It's good to have that balance, though,
Balance is everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, this was fun, and I don't get to just chat with you for 15 minutes, so this is great. You got any final words for us?
No. Good luck on the book. Thanks for having me on, and look out for the Huskers. We're going to be ready to go come March.
All right, and we will be watching you guys Friday night at Iowa on BTN, correct?
Saturday.
Oh, it's Saturday. Oh, see, I messed
Saturday.
up. It's Saturday on Big Ten Network.
Yep, we'll be there.
Okay, we'll be watching. Thanks a lot, Bryan.
All right, thanks, Ben.
See ya. All right, guys, that was University of Nebraska head assistant coach Bryan Snyder, and I spent some time with Bryan when we were coaching Arizona State together. Then he left to go to the University of Nebraska and be the head assistant coach there. So I didn't want to rub it in. I help out with the Badgers. They had a rough week. I didn't want to rub it in. It happens. They also had a really great Vegas. And I didn't even remember that they had Ohio State. So their stretch coming up is pretty insane. They got Iowa, then Penn State, then Ohio State. I mean, that's obviously the Big Ten is always tough, but that's a pretty crazy stretch. And so, when I look at their team, they're a team that could have 5, 6, 7 All-Americans. Obviously, they have a lot of young guys. So some of these young guys haven't completely proven themselves yet, but they have had quite a bit of success. So that was good to chat with him. Like I said, this show's nice because sometimes I don't get to catch up with some of these guys enough. So it was really nice talking to Bryan. Next, we are going to bring on University of Missouri head coach. I don't know if I want to bring this up to him, but they had like a 5-year dual meet win streak in the MAC conference, and I believe they just lost yesterday against Northern Iowa. So we'll see where the conversation leads us with Coach Smith, but I know he's always fired up. I can remember how mad he got when we lost some matches. So we'll see where this goes when we get Coach Smith on the line. What's up, Coach Smith? How you doing there in the office?
Doing great. How you doing, Ben?
Good. That looks really familiar. I could see myself sitting in that chair right behind you there.
Yep. This would be the chair you'd be sitting in, and I'd be over there going, "What the hell are you doing?"
Not very often.
No, never. I don't think I ever had. Well, there were a few times I had to yell at you.
A couple times. The worst one ever. I'm gonna out myself here. Do you remember? Now I'm
gonna deny whatever you say.
No, it's on me, not on you.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you ever did anything. I don't think you did anything ever dumb. Like you were an adult by the time we were working together, right? So I was a dumb kid. The one time when the football coach called the cops on us when we were lifting. And I went up and stormed Mike Alden's office and told him it was bullshit. You got so mad at me.
Yeah, because I get a note from the AD saying, I just had one of your athletes, Ben, chewing me out.
Oh, that was dumb, huh?
That was dumb.
I apologize for that.
You showed him.
15 years later. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think I showed him anything. But when you're a kid, when you're young, you feel that inside you. But then you realize you're older and you realize how things really work. And yeah, that was.
Well,
dumb.
you know what I always said? I had the stairwell, right around the corner from my office. And the administrators used to be where the volleyball offices are now. And I'd be all fired up. I'm going to tell them this is the way it's got to be, and we got to have this or that. And I'd get to the bottom of the stairwell, start walking, and then that time that I had to walk down cooled me off enough that it saved me. But if they were next door to me, I probably would have been fired in my first 5 or 6 years. So I always say the stairwell saved my job.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, well, let's talk. You brought the old times up, when the ADs were in your building, and man, so much has changed. And is this your 20th year, correct?
22nd.
22nd. Okay, 22nd year. How much has changed in your time in Missouri?
I would say a lot. A lot has changed because when I first got here, we had a small little practice area, which you were a part of when you first came here. It was very, very small. And then you have, we have our own weight room now. Our locker room has changed. So all that has changed, but probably just the type of recruiting we're doing. We're recruiting a lot more elite athletes, even though you were elite, but now it's like most of the kids in our class are that way. Yep. And just the way, I think just Mizzou in general, since it's moved to the SEC with the budget, when I first started at Missouri, it was like a $14 million budget, and now we're close to a $100 million budget.
Jeez. Is that real?
That's real.
That's like 7X. I mean, I would have guessed maybe like double, maybe 2.5.
No, the overall athletic budget.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's a lot of it's because of the SEC network and all that stuff and what they got coming in. So it's crazy.
I do see, I've came to visit a couple of times. I do see how soft your kids are getting. They got their name on everything, a piece of clothing they got. I mean, dude, did you remember? I'm sure there's pictures. When I came in 2002, we had like maybe one or two pairs of gray T-shirts and then black shorts. And we didn't even have wrestling on it. Yeah, nothing. It was just a tiger and Missouri. That was it.
Yeah, I think it was maybe in your whatever year, right before you got there, we may have. Well, I think it was Michael Chandler or somebody went to Alden and said, "Hey, is there any way we can get gear with our with Missouri wrestling on it?" And he gave us like $100 to spend on each kid. And now we spend probably $1,500 to $2,000 on a kid. It's crazy. Yeah. So,
wow, how times have changed.
So those are a lot of the things that have changed. So.
Okay. Well, so let's start talking about. We talked about the old times. Let's talk about your year. You guys just had a big weekend last weekend. A couple weekends ago, you guys were at the South Beach Duels. It's been almost all duels, right? Besides, I think there was one open tournament in there somewhere.
We had two. We went to the Lindenwood, and then we went to the Cougar Clash.
Oh, so I was at the Cougar Clash. I'm a dummy. Yeah, I was there.
So we've had a couple tournaments, and actually in the Cougar Clash, I thought we performed at a pretty good level. Yeah. So it was a good test for us to see how we would do against a couple good teams. Wisconsin was there, and Michigan State. So it's but it's been a year. I'm glad I'm in my 22nd year, and I have more patience than in my early years because this team is definitely testing my patience. But that's part of coaching. Yeah. That you're going to have. When I look at our lineup, we have, I think, 6 freshmen and sophomores, and they need, and I have to remind my assistant coaches, Maple and Todd and Don Bradley, I'm like, guys, remember when you were freshmen and some of the mistakes you'd make in matches and some of the losses you had were probably from those years. And I said, we got to keep coaching these kids up and believing in them and keeping them on, to believe in the process. But sometimes they just drift away and do things when they're on the mat, and you're like, why would you do that? So, but it's a challenge, but it's something that I've been spoiled for probably 5-6 years. We've been in the top 5 or 6 in the country, and I've had some really focused junior, senior laden teams where this team's just young. We've graduated a lot of guys, and we're starting a lot of young kids, and but it teaches you it makes me as a coach know that patience is really important right now, how I develop this team, because in another year or two and at the end of the season, where we're going to be is going to be dictated on how I respond as a coach to these young men.
That's funny because actually the last guy I talked to was Bryan Snyder out of Nebraska, and he's a PhD, and we got off subject. I get off subject a lot. I get ADHD.
Oh, I know that.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know that. But we were talking about being successful in different avenues and how I think empathy is such an important factor as a coach. And it's like, that's something you don't really need or think about much as an athlete. And then as a coach, like you're saying, and probably your younger coaches that you were mentioning that you're talking about right there, they probably don't have as much of that built up. And now after 22 years of being a head coach, you have like a lot of patience and understanding and empathy with the young
Without
guys.
A doubt. In my early years, it was all about how we're going to work and what we're going to do and, the X's and O's, as they say. Where now I remember just this weekend when we got into northern Iowa, I was talking with my coaches, and afterwards I went down, and I think I was just getting a glass of tea or something, and I was like, I texted one of the guys to come down and talk with me because I knew he was just struggling a little. So that was a good 20, 30-minute talk. Then I went up and sat with a lot of the freshmen in their hotel room. It was like 3 or 4 of them, and just hung out with them for 30, 40 minutes. And we were just talking about everything and anything, and not wrestling, but just, it's part of it is just developing that relationship. So I'm not just tough coach. It's, hey, coach is all right. Yeah, and he's with us, and that's definitely something I've learned.
Now that I'm actually not a new coach anymore, I'm getting a little bit older.
Yes, you are. You're also a dad, and you learn a lot from that too.
That is true. But one of the things that if a coach asks me, I said a guy that's a buddy, start coaching this year, what's the biggest piece of advice you have? And I always say, build a relationship before you start pushing them. Because if you push them and there's not a relationship there, it can go pretty bad pretty fast. And if there's that relationship and that trust there, man, you can push them about as far as they can go. You can push them over the limit, because sometimes those kids, they're holding out. They don't want to go here, and then you got to kick them over the line and show them that they can do it and that they're capable. I think that's such an important thing. So
I've had that happen many a time where I run a crazy practice, and afterwards guys are like, man, I hated you during it, coach, but after, I'm like, they're like, thank you, because I know I can go a little bit further than I thought.
Absolutely.
So it's good stuff.
Oh my gosh, you know what that? Because it was a trip home from UNI, I believe. You know what that just made me think of? I don't remember.
No snacks?
No, that was different. I think that was a different trip. I think I thought, at least in my memory, the Northern Iowa one was, we had, I believe it was in my junior senior, we had a couple guys who weren't ultra disciplined with their weight cutting. They weren't doing the right things, which, that's on them, right? But you said, okay, we'll stop at this gas station. Maybe this was no next time. We'll stop at this gas station. So we stopped there against your will, but then you stood by the cashier and you watched what junk food certain kids brought up. Like, nope, junk food goes back on the shelf.
I could tell you a funny story. When I was coaching at Cornell, we were coming back and we had to wrestle like in 4 or 5 day turnaround. And I stopped at a gas station somewhere in upstate New York, and the guys went into the gas station and I said, nothing but healthy snacks or whatever. And they came back to the van, and I was grabbing like sodas and stupid drinks and putting them in a snowbank, candy bars. And the snowbank was packed.
After they already bought them?
Yeah. I told them. And we were only like 30 minutes away from Ithaca, where Cornell is. And I talked with a couple of them. They were all like, man, when we get back, we got to hop in a car and get back to that snowbank. So crazy.
Poor college kids. Oh, that's so sad.
Yes.
Okay, so look at your schedule coming up. You guys have pretty much all MAC matches, and then Oklahoma State, Arizona State. What's this next month or so looking like for you guys before you go to MACs?
It's a good test, because I know Central Michigan's had some good duels. They had a 2016 duel with Virginia Tech. They're really difficult to wrestle. They really buy into the process that Coach Borelli teaches, and so we got to be disciplined and go out and find ways to open them up and score. And then it's a tough trip. We drive down, and 2 days later we wrestle at Kent State. So it's learning to be good with your weight and disciplined with it, and going through a tough bus travel like that. But, we'll see how they respond. It's an important week, but we're not in school right now, so it's not that hard.
You have one more week still?
And then, one more week.
Nice.
And then we have a couple more MAC duels at home and a few more on the road. But then we go, then I've made it on purpose, where we end with some really, really tough teams with Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and then Iowa State. So that'll be where we really find out if we've improved as the season's gone on. And and I really think we are. I think we're growing in confidence, even though we're struggling a little in duels. Yeah. But it would be nice if I could get all 10 guys in the lineup. Leith came down with the flu. He wrestled the first night, but he was struggling, so we just left him home.
Yeah, so obviously the obvious question is the Leith thing, is it a weight issue? Because, he's been in.
It's not a weight issue.
Okay, but he has been in and out of the lineup this year, right? So
it's his body. It's me. I didn't want him to wrestle that much. He's had 3 season-ending injuries, so it's let's shorten his season. I need him in March. I don't need him in January or February. Yep. So he's wrestled 9 matches. We'll get the 15 matches, and he was supposed to wrestle yesterday, but he came down with the flu, so that was not a planned miss. But I couldn't wrestle him with the flu. So
yeah. That makes sense. So how do you feel about Grant and Leith is a great example, and you just made me think of, they give out medical red shirts easier than ever. I'm assuming you think it's I think it's an overall positive thing because kids should have the ability to go compete. We've seen Anthony Gassar. He's already got 2. He's ended another season. Who knows? He might be competing till he's 32 years old or something.
That's crazy.
Do you
Probably the most difficult thing, and I've had this talk with somebody else. I forget who I was having the conversation with because they were asking me about the Olympic red shirts. And I said, if you have a kid that's taking an Olympic red shirt, and then you have a couple guys getting medicals, it makes it difficult on the side. And you'll understand this with scholarship money.
Yeah.
Because if those kids delay it and then they get a medical and they're coming back, you have to have money for them for an extra year. And now you're recruiting kids and getting them to commit to you as juniors, and you think that kid's going to be gone. It makes it tough.
Yeah.
You have to really be smart with your money and find ways to make it happen. So it's definitely made it harder on that end because I have a couple guys right now that are putting in for medicals, and we're going to find out, and Leaf is still on. So he technically has a year next year too.
Yeah.
So
and I would assume because Olympic redshirts most likely don't go to school that they don't get scholarship money during their Olympic year, correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, hey, this was fun. I'm glad you hopped on with me for the first show. Any last words or anything else you want to discuss?
I'm trying to think of a good story to make you look silly, but I will hold back on some of those. You got all nervous.
No, you could roast me as much as you want. The one that is fairly public is how I couldn't climb the rope, but that was in the old room, which is right.
No, I wouldn't get you on that.
Right next to. Well, everyone knows that one. You can't get me on that one.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that one.
I was thinking more of when the golf coach called me on you, but I won't do that one. Yeah.
Hey, I'm a kid. I told you I was a kid.
You were a kid.
It was fun.
And you understand that now because you're coaching kids.
Yeah.
You know how they can be.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you can talk about this, but I can. I beat up on one of your future recruits, Keegan O'Toole, last night, but he's looking fantastic. Yeah. He won the Cheesehead. I think the clear number 1 in the country because Gallagher lost to Valencia, but he beat Facundo. So
yeah, I saw he just beat the Michigan kid.
Yep. So
yeah. You know this. You coach him, but he's a special kid. When we first started communicating with each other and we became really close, we would have 20-minute conversations, and he was breaking down film of Missouri and talking about how we work on top and the things and little details about that I'm like, this kid's special.
Yeah.
And I remember having talks with you about things like that when I was recruiting you and how you really thought about what the sport is about and how you think about it, how you train through it and things like that the questions are high. I think of it, I say it's a high level IQ in a kid in wrestling, and you had that, and he definitely has that. He loves it. All he talks about is I want to compete here and compete there, and he embraces competition like you did.
Absolutely.
I try to tell that to guys now that you probably had 50-something matches in your redshirt year, and then even when you were wrestling, you were like, hey, you mind if I go to the Dinker? We're off this week. I want to go get some more pins.
They tried roasting me on FRL last week. I just joined as a host. They tried roasting me because it wasn't the Dinker, it was the CMSU. I went to my junior,
that's at
senior
CMSU.
Year.
So
okay, same thing. So
all right.
It's my junior senior years. Listen, I got 10 matches there. I got 9 pins in a major. Whatever. Listen, I was trying to pad my stats. I thought that was fair.
But there were usually some Oklahoma States and Oklahomas and people there, so you had some battles.
Yeah, there were some decent kids, but I was just good at pinning people.
Yes, you were.
Sue me.
I remember at the scuffle one year, you had like 13 pins in a row or something.
I got 18 in a row my senior year, and I pinned every person in the first period.
But I remember at one point in the scuffle, this guy from App State was giving you fits, and right at the end, I think you freaking caught him in something, whether it was an assassin, you choked the living crap out of him and pinned him. And it was with like 5-10 seconds left, and Horton going crazy. But it was fun.
I remember the one time. Like, Horton instigated me. He said he bet me I couldn't choke someone out in a cradle, so I didn't try to pin the guy. I just tried to choke him out. And I got him to call injury time.
Oh Lord. Those were fun times.
All right, Coach. I appreciate you coming on the first show. That was fun.
No problem. Good luck with it. I'll enjoy it. I'm looking forward to watching the whole thing.
Well, we'll put this out probably either tonight or tomorrow. Have a good day.
All right, Ben.
See ya.
Take care.
See ya.